Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to your daily Bournemouth podcast brought to you by the Global Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host today, Dom. It's been a while. It's been a long minute, but football is back. And our next game is against Brighton at home. And we're joined by one of my nearest and dearest, Joe Richardson from the Daily Brighton podcast. How are you, good sir?
Yes, mate. It's finally time for the crossover that everyone's sort of, well, I was going to say everyone's been waiting for. I don't think everyone's been waiting for a Brighton.
Well, you'd be surprised.
But obviously, I was actually speaking about Joe and Dom crossover here. We have been friends for a long time. You're probably thinking, oh, Joe, you've been mates with everyone, didn't you? So, yeah, well, that's just what I do, mate. To bring people in. I'm like Mina Riola, mate. So
I mean, well, you're doing it before Iriola, to be fair. So
yeah.
Some could say that you were the influence, you were the the blueprint, we should say. But obviously, we're here today to talk about the big game on Saturday. It's been a long couple of weeks without club football. International football has, for me personally, bored me to death once again. Even though England did win 5-0, I don't know if you got a chance to watch it, Joe.
Absolutely not, mate.
No, I didn't either. Sounds like we did all right, but I don't care anymore. Rolling on the World Cup, baby.
Honestly, yeah. Like, that's literally. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, as soon as the opportunity to go down the pub and throw beer everywhere when we score is there, then I'm there. But against Ireland, I don't really care. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So apologies to all of our Irish listeners. Evan Ferguson, I know you're listening. Really sorry. So today we're going to be going over 3 different aspects. We're going to be looking at a general overview before the game, maybe touched on some past results, some past fixtures, where we're sat right now in terms of form, then looking ahead to the game on the weekend, and then we thought it'd be fun to do a combined 11, didn't we?
Yes, sir.
Brilliant.
Yes, sir.
So should we jump straight into what our thoughts will be this Saturday?
Yeah, of course, mate. I'll let you go first as you're the home team.
Thank you. So obviously the build up to the international break was a really good one for us. I think the results were more than what we could have asked for, really. The triple header of Arsenal, Villa and City and coming away with 7 points from that is quite remarkable for any team, I'd argue, especially for us.
Yeah.
And then obviously we just throw it all away by losing to Brentford, which anyone who knows anything about Bournemouth saw coming from a mile off. But it hinders your momentum a little bit going into it. And obviously we both got that scalp against City, didn't we? Both injects you with a bit of excitement going forward. But then one of the interesting things to look at, in my opinion, is the fact that we both beat City at home. So it's not really looking at that away form. And you coming in as the away team, I'm just curious to hear where your thoughts might be on that side of aspect.
To be honest, like the way that we play is it's sort of like a bit of a contradiction in itself, because we're actually really, really good going forward. And there have been like loads of question marks sort of defensively. Against City, I thought we were decent defensively, 100%. Against Liverpool, we were really, really good in the first half. At Anfield as well. Obviously, we took the lead. We were really, really good then, and I think we just ran out of steam a little bit. And obviously, the manager's like 13 years old. So, you could obviously put it down to sort of naivety, but like considering that he's so young and like, to be fair, the issues I think are pretty glaringly obvious, and to come in and sort of make those changes, and then we were saying prior to the City game, we want the same performance as the first half against Liverpool, but we want that maturity to sort of come in. Yeah. Also, backed by the fact that they'd lost 3 before that, and in all comps, and they're a bit of a wounded animal. So everyone just thought they were going to come pop us up. They were going to pop us at our place. And we weren't even that great in the first half, but then obviously like we turned it around and all our players basically come back at the same time. Like Matt O'Reilly basically come back from the dead. João Pedro respawned, he was there, and he honestly, both together they were cooking. When Belieber came on as well, oh my god, he was dog walking Kovacic and all them man around the pitch, mate. It was unbelievable. But I mean, international break is like, I don't know if you want to do you rest, because we have literally played every big team basically.
Yeah.
So do you want the rest and then go again, but it's sort of coming into a bit of an easier period, or do you want to sort of kick on from that? But I mean, we had quite a few players playing, to be fair. Van Hacker went with Holland, and Ayari was Sweden. Evan Ferguson went away as well. But yeah, I think that sort of the away games, I think, are, you look at them and you think, oh, it's always going to be tough away, but I'll always back us to score. It's just how mature of a performance it's going to be depends on whether we're going to win. And I think with maybe everyone coming back, we can see that again, hopefully.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think what's really refreshing about how Brighton play, and you touched on it initially, is the fact that they're not scared to go at teams. They won't, you won't be threatened by the calibre of team that you're playing. And I think what would be really interesting actually on Saturday is the fact that we're very much like that now as well. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we were talking before, weren't we, about the performances, especially on the telly against Arsenal. Maybe a couple of years ago, we might have been quite naive. We might have sat back. We might have respected them a little bit too much and ended up being on the receiving end of a hiding. And then we see that, well, we've seen it for the past 10 years against City as well, at home and away. And then, I mean, I've listened to like your podcast and listened to other podcasts and people saying like City in transition, they're not particularly strong. Their players like Walker. Walker to like hone in on, for example, against us, he was terrible. And I think the fact that we've got two teams now, us and Brighton, who probably on Saturday are just going to be, it's going to be better than Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, mate. They're going to be throwing punches at each other. These punches are going to be being thrown all game. And I echo your sentiment, the fact that I'm confident we'll score as well. So it'd be interesting to see like a slugger-head-esque performance from both teams, I think. Yeah,
obviously, like, in terms of like being a football fan, you obviously like, as long as you win, you obviously, I feel like you'd rather win, unless you're like a bit of a neek or a goon. You'd like to see like a 1-0, obviously. Oh, I love a clean sheet. Lad, I want to see 5-4, mate. I love that. But like, as long as we win, I don't care. But on a more sort of like professional side, I would still like to see a professional performance and not let it get to that, because that's a terrible look for like sort of the rest of it, obviously. But I mean, as long as we win, I don't massively care. Me and Bless earmarked a couple of the games, and I think he might have called draw on this one and then a loss on Fulham away. But I said we could win this one, maybe draw against Fulham, and then sort of just look to win the rest of your home games. And if you're in and amongst it by Christmas in those sort of European places, then you are looking it's pretty healthy, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
we'll see what happens though. See what happens.
I agree with you, and I think before we move on to the second segment, I think the general consensus from Bournemouth fans is going into this, we know it's going to be a tricky game. I think anyone who's been following the league in general will look at this and think two good teams going at each other. I mean, we're separated by a fair few places, but the points aren't particularly huge.
No, there's a massive drop-off after second.
Absolutely, and I think if you can't look in hindsight, but we should have beaten Leicester, really. That would make us 3 points better off. The Newcastle game where we were robbed of points from that handball, that shouldn't have been given. I'm still angry about it, mate. I'm still angry about it. We should actually be higher up the table. But yeah, I do think it would be a good game. So let's pause it there and we'll go to a quick advert break and then we'll move on to our second segment.
Of course, mate.
Welcome back to the Daily Sports, the Daily Bournemouth podcast brought to you by Global Sports Podcast Network. Excuse some technical issues just there. I had my mic muted by accident. I'd rather be transparent. I'd rather be transparent with my audience. So Joe, you missed
rookie error.
Yeah, you missed my gushing words about your advert read. I thought it was exceptional. So well done.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
So I think what would be quite interesting now is to look at maybe the specific players in the game. Where players might be missing, where some good battles will be had over the pitch. So I think, Joe, if you want to start us off with some of your key players, and then I'll come back with some rebuttal.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So one thing that I am intrigued by is your midfield three, regardless of if it's the two holding and the 10 or the sort of the flat three or whatever. You do have quite a workman-like midfield.
Absolutely.
And I would like to see how the big man, if he's fit, because he obviously might not be, because we have heard that there is some knee issues going on, which I could relate to. But Carlos Baleba, sort of in and amongst Ryan Christie's, Lewis Cook, because Lewis Cook's a dog, mate. He is ready to go to war all the time. And to be fair, it's probably even more so if you do play Tyler Adams, because he's also a dog, but he is made out of Cadbury's cream eggs. So
I think they're a bit stronger, to be honest, especially in the fridge.
Yeah.
Take teeth out.
You put your chocolate in the fridge, mate. That's not what you get with Tyler Adams.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just curious to see how, because we played against some City and against Liverpool, we played a midfield two of Jack Hinchelwood and Yassine Ayari, which is probably on paper maybe a little bit more, well, especially Ayari is a little bit more technical maybe than a midfield three for Bournemouth without Alex Scott in there, who is obviously a very good player. But I am curious to see sort of how, if we can win that midfield battle, I think maybe 25 to 40% of the battle is potentially won there. So I'd like to get your thoughts on that, if it even is going to be those three.
I mean, you're probably going to be looking at a Christian Cook holding two from the beginning.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised if he didn't go with that. Purely just based off the fact that, yes, we've had international break and Ryan Christie's played in the international break, but he's just so integral to how we play. And as much as I really thought Tyler Adams, especially when he came on against City, was so tidy. And obviously he started the game at Brentford as well, and he put in a fairly decent performance. I just think you're so right in what you say, in the fact that, especially with our game plan, the midfield is so important. And the midfield, if you lose the midfield battle for us, especially, you're asking to probably lose the game as well. Obviously, my Brighton knowledge isn't 100%, but I know how highly rated Baleba is. I've seen the fan cams, I've seen the TikToks, I've seen the tweets. I've seen City fans go, "Pay the 100 million or whatever it is."
They do that every time. Mate.
Well, they've got the money for it, mate. They've got the money for it. Yeah. And obviously, I think what would be quite interesting as well is, you touched on the fact Matt O'Reilly obviously coming back as well, who I know more of his time at Celtic rather than Brighton, because obviously he got injured in a pre-season game, was it, or
it was in the first cup game against Crawley. He got killed.
The derby, the Crawley derby.
Yeah, he got killed, mate.
So obviously him coming back is a huge boost for you as well, and I do completely agree with you that I think the midfield battle will be really, really key. The work rate from Christian Cook in there, but I think what will be interesting as well is maybe the battle on the flanks. I think, I mean, Matoma, I don't know how many more superlatives we can use for Matoma, to be honest with you. He just seems to improve every single season. He had a bit of a blip. Was it last season where he sort of...
So basically, he come back from injury, but I don't know if you actually saw it. It made the rounds on Twitter. I don't know if you actually saw the injury. I think it might have been Mason Holgate. He's killed him, mate.
He's
wrapped his. I almost swore then. He wrapped his stud around his kneecap, and then I think Matoma actually might have tried to play on. I think that probably added another month and a half on.
Make it worse, yeah.
And he's come back, and to be fair, he obviously is a very talented player. He's a spectacular player. He that his dribbling is there. He's always a threat. We were speaking about it, I think maybe last week, 2 weeks ago, maybe just before the City game. I think we were talking about it, and we were sort of saying about how we would like to see a bit more from him in terms of his output, because his all-round game is sort of there. He's very polished, and we have loads of wingers who aren't very polished at the moment who could be. But we would still just like to see that end product sort of come back, sort of reminiscent of the season where he made Joe Gomez twerk in the cup. And all of that stuff. But yeah, I am interested. Is Adam Smith actually playing right back?
Adam Smith, it's looking likely he'll be playing right back as Julian Araujo is injured now. He's done his hamstring in. I know, obviously, we've had discussions in private before about Adam Smith potentially not being Premier League quality anymore. I do think, though, and I've said this on the podcast, and I've actually said this for about a year now. I think he's playing his best football I've ever seen him play under Iriola. How
good is that, though? Because you, man, when we're in the pub, you, man, have cussed out Adam Smith, saying he's the worst player in the Premier League.
I didn't say that.
No, that was Sonny. He said that.
Yeah, that wasn't me. So I do think he struggled for a while. I do think what it was, though, was the fact that the formations we were playing in the Premier League before Iriola were obviously under Gary O'Neill and under Scott Parker. Wolves fans are starting to see it now. Burnley fans are seeing it again. Very negative, very regimented, very line-by-line football as opposed to fluidity. I think the fluidity is something that suits Adam Smith because he doesn't have to bomb up the line and stay with his defenders, but he can do that. He has the license to do that. And what's really good is now as well is that he has a quality centre-back and Ryan Christie helping him either double or triple up on players. He's not isolated anymore. Yeah. And his general one-on-one defending has been something that has been quite a good skill of his for a while. I'm not saying he's going to lock up Matoma and Matoma's not going to have a sniff, but what I am saying is that it's absolutely improvement, yeah. And I think that's definitely the word. Yeah. So I think it would be a good battle going in, and I think the fact as well, going back to Christie again, looking at Zabriani in centre-back as well, who's obviously a really good player, someone who
he's
I really
very
rate.
Good. Yeah, three of them, three good, decent centre-halves there, man.
That
you got from Juventus, who's like 18 foot tall.
Howson, and he doesn't even play.
He wasn't Senesi injured or something, or one of the two were injured, and then he came in for like maybe the first couple games.
Yeah, and he was extremely solid. Away at Forest, he was exceptional. Yeah. He's good to have off the bench. He obviously won't be someone who will be a bench player his entire time here.
No chance.
I imagine at the end of this season or maybe January sort of time, people come sniffing in for Zab or Senesi. I made the contentious shout about a year ago that I thought Senesi was good enough to play for Man City. Maybe. But
at the moment, mate, I mean...
And I did, back when Ake was all known to us, I did say he was the best player I'd ever seen. And he's gone on
you did say that. You actually did say that, confirmed.
And he's gone on to make me very proud. But I think we've both got players who we will be looking at. I think what will be interesting as well before we move on to the next break will be the battle of the strikers, as it were. Danny Welbeck.
The GOAT, mate. The GOAT. Just quickly just 2 seconds before if it runs over, it runs over.
That's fine.
I just need to talk about this player on your side, actually. So there has been I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen it. There's some teams sniffing around my man in left back there, mate.
Mr. Milos.
Mr. Milos, who, by the way, I think he's a quality player. And you, and a couple of Jamie, who we've had on our podcast, and Seb, who works for I'm not going to name the Premier League club, but he works at a Premier League club. We were sort of saying that acquisition was very promising, and now we're sort of I'm hearing rumours of like 40 to Liverpool and
the rest.
And I'm actually curious as to sort of get your thoughts on just him in general a little bit. Just because the sort of right wing position is a little bit of and an in for us at the moment. Yeah. But I just want to touch on him a little bit, as it is obviously the Bournemouth pod. Also, I think he's a great player, but I thought he was absolutely terrible at the Euros. But I thought Hungary in general were terrible. Szoboszlai was awful. I didn't rate them at all. But just a quick word on him, because he is a pretty special talent.
I think last season he started off well. He then fell by the wayside a little bit purely because I don't think I know it's very cliche, but I don't think he'd adjusted to the league yet. He's really young.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what we all forget. He's very early 20s.
Yeah.
He was quite rash, got some silly bookings, made some silly mistakes. I think pre-season was brilliant for him because it's brilliant for all of our players because we started last season really poorly.
Yeah.
And we've come out the blocks flying. I think this season now he understands his role.
Yeah.
And again, that sounds really cliche, but he knows when to stay back. He knows when to attack. He's built up a great partnership with whoever he plays on the left with because it chops and changes quite a bit. And during the game, we often swap wingers as we go.
Yeah.
But he knows his role. And I think what really epitomised that was the City game. Probably one of the best individual performances I've ever seen from a Bournemouth player.
Oh, it's a big shout.
It is a big shout. 2 assists. Had the beating of his man every single time. Absolutely rapid, incredibly strong. Got a brilliant cross in him now. The only thing that you can tell he wants is a goal. And I do think those numbers that you're hearing from the likes of Liverpool, from the likes of potentially, I think I saw Tottenham as well. I think those teams who are looking at paying that amount of money will end up getting an exceptional talent. Do I think he'll leave in January? No. Do I think he'll leave in the summer? Probably. And it's just about us now finding a suitable replacement. With the thing is with Kirkes, Zabrani, Housen, all these young, well thought of players, they don't come to a team like us to stay here and ply their trade for the rest of their career. Obviously not. And it's just something that we have to be willing of and just accept as it comes.
It's a bit of a crux of the sort of good scouting, isn't it? But in reality, the whole point of the scouting is obviously being a Brighton fan. We obviously know we like money. Tony Bloom loves money more than I don't know if I could say his name on here, but more than Vince McMahon, he loves money. So I think you're well within your right. If he's still under contract for like the next 2-3 years, I still think you're well within your right to, if you don't want to sell him, give us the money that we want, not the money that you want. Give us the money that we want. So
it's the classic Jack Grealish case study, isn't it? Everyone goes, Jack Grealish isn't worth 100 million. It's like, yeah, but no one's saying he is. But if you're willing to pay it, then that's on you.
Yeah, 100%.
What we'll do, we'll park the player conversation and then we can move on to our combined 11.
Yeah. We'll speak about the strikers in the combined 11.
Absolutely. All right, time for a break. Welcome back to the Daily Bournemouth podcast. We're going to move on now to our combined 11s. Shall we do it position by position, argue our case, and then move on to the next? Yeah,
I'd say the positions that, unless you've been smoking on illegal substances beforehand, I think there's some positions that I think we could just skip over basically because it's obvious. But there's a couple that I'm more than happy to be honest, I think that there's a couple that in there that are definitely, you're going to have probably 3-4 players in there, I reckon.
Absolutely. I agree.
Injuries don't count, by the way, just to put it out there. Because normally all of the Brighton fans all of our fans on social media normally just go, why is this player not here? But he's just been injured. So we're going to put that to one side.
Brighton fans, he said it, not me. So one of the positions I think we can both agree to skip over is potentially goalkeeper.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not hearing anything. I can't believe that I might sound like a bit like Rory Jennings here, but I can't believe the most expensive goalkeeper in the world is plying his trade on loan at Bournemouth. It's actually insane. And he's probably should be backup goalkeeper. I do just want to give Travers a very quick shout out for starting the season. Well, the games that he's played, he's been brilliant. That performance against Aston Villa was sensational. But I'd agree with you with having your resident goalkeeper. Yeah, Verbruggen, man, I think he's been one of the best good, because I don't think the goalkeeper's been very good this year in the league in general. I think you can probably, you're looking at like Kelleher, who's not even Liverpool's number one. You're looking at probably David Raya, and I think Verbruggen's probably in there as well. I think he's been class. Shout out my man. And he's also like 22, by the way, so it's pretty decent. Well, next, right back. I think, again, I'm probably putting my Brighton hat on for this one. Kadioglu? Potentially. If you want to whack him in there. I mean, he could play left back, right back, and right mid, apparently. So. Well, there you are. It's not going to be Tariq Lamptey. Sorry, to Daily Brighton, but it's not going to be Tariq Lamptey. We're not having him anywhere near here, unfortunately.
So, are we going Chanoglu?
Yeah, Kadioglu, put him
Yeah,
right back.
I as much as again I lauded over Smith earlier on, I don't think I can do it. And obviously Arujo, we haven't seen enough of him really.
Yeah, small sample size.
Yeah, exactly. Now centre backs, interesting one. This one, I am very much willing. Are we just going to knock both centre backs on the head? I do really, really rate your centre backs. I think Van Heck is a very good player.
Van Heck's unbelievable. We don't rate the others that highly, to be honest with
you. I think from the looks of things, it was maybe a mix of when Pep was talking to him the other day. A, never touch Erling Haaland ever again, and B, do you want to play for us next year?
Yeah,
I think it was a little bit of both.
How much money are you on right now?
But I do think we can't gloss over Zab and Senesi.
Yeah, but which one's better though? You watch them more than me. So
I think Zab's a better defender. I think Senesi offers you something that Zab doesn't know, and that's his passing ability and his position to pick players out.
Who's the manager? Would you just because Iriola's insane? But would you go? Should we just go based on position in the league so far, and then just give it to Herzler?
Okay, yeah,
and so based on that and the passing up from the back, I'd go for Senesi.
Senesi instead. Okay,
to fit the style of play.
Yeah, I'd be happy to have Senesi in there. I think even Howson, despite being a small sample size, the times we have watched of him, he's an exceptional player as well. So, I think 100%. He'd find himself a bit hard done by. Left back, I think answers itself personally. I think Kirkes has to be Kirkes.
Yeah, Kirkes. Yeah, we literally can't. It's been a Stupinian for a while, but he's been off it since the injury. We have said the Salah goal. Oh my god, man!
Yeah, it wasn't.
He's actually facing the other way. I could have cut in.
So two holding players then. Should we go for?
Yeah, because I think up front is not looking very good for Bournemouth. There's one player that I'd have in there, but the rest I think I would be Brighton probably.
Okay.
The midfield too. Matt O'Reilly. I think if we were to when we revisit this next game, I think he's probably in there. Just a prediction, but I like Ryan Christie a lot. And it has to be Belabor, otherwise I'm walking out the pod immediately.
So are we going for Christie and Belabor then, do we think?
Yeah, Christie and Belabor. If you're happy with that, I'm happy with that.
What about Lewis Cook? Not saying over Belabor, but
no, but like you can pick between them because again, I like Ryan Christie. I just think he's pretty solid. But I could be wrong, but from me, Ryan Christie works hard, but I feel like he has a bit more of that, like maybe the eye for goal or something, maybe. So I don't know. I mean,
goal scoring,
the most creative player though. He's created the most chances in the whole team.
Yeah, I think I'll slot Cook in there. Okay. He's had a great season so far. As much as
the season,
exactly, and I do love Ryan Christie, but I do think we'll put Cook in there. So now we've got our front three before our number 9, should we say? So front three, you basically alluded to the point that no more Bournemouth players will be in this.
No. Do you want me to say mine and then you can?
Yeah, go on then.
So I would go from left to right: Matoma, João Pedro. And so Matoma, João Pedro in the 10 because he's been playing there this season, and then Semenyo on the right.
Interesting. I would agree with Matoma. I would potentially argue the case for Justin Kluivert in the 10, and then I would absolutely agree with you with Semenyo. I think Pedro and Kluivert are quite similar in their play style. I think you'd get quite a similar player in there. I just personally will go with Kluivert because of my Bournemouth hat, but I wouldn't be anti putting João Pedro in there.
I personally think that João Pedro is the best player out of. If you were to actually line them all up, I think João Pedro is probably he's the biggest game changer out of all of those players. if you were to line the whole of both teams up and their subs, I think he's the one that you point to, and I think he just. I personally, I can understand the sort of similarities between him and Clivert, but I just think that João Pedro is clear. I think he's probably the best player in out of all of the teams. So I think he just has to go in there. He's going to be an absolute star. So I think it has to be João Pedro personally.
I'm not anti that at all. So moving on to our final position.
Yep.
I know who you're going to say. I can't say I particularly disagree with you either. So obviously, who are you going to say?
So it's obviously the GOAT, and the legend. I think he's transcended Daily Brighton legend status, and I think he's actually gone to GSPN legend status.
He's gone mainstream. He's gone mainstream.
Yeah.
I'm seeing the That Guy Wells clips on Twitter again. I feel like I'm in sick form again. Yeah, I feel like I'm in year 12.
He's a Barclaysman, mate. So
he is.
He's the guy. He's literally that guy.
He is, and he's supposed to be entering his twilight era, but he's just suddenly hit probably the best form he's ever been in, arguably.
Lad, I don't know where this hold-up play is coming from, mate. He's literally moving like prime Zlatan Ibrahimovic with the hold-up play, mate. It's unbelievable.
It has to be down to Glasson, though, right? Like, it has to be.
Yeah, I think the style of play has suited him a lot. And also, the players around him are so decent and complementary to what he wants to do. So, I mean, so I don't know if you watched the highlights from the City game, but João Pedro's goal, we're all claiming that's Danny Welbeck assist, mate. Danny Welbeck didn't do anything.
it has to be Danny Welbeck assist.
He was just in the vicinity, and we're just claiming it, man. We don't care. But I will give Evan Nilsson his flowers. I think there's a player in there,
absolutely.
And I just think that because he has really, really good qualities, but there's just some of the things that he lacks, I feel, are like quite big. But once you figure it out, you can definitely he could definitely ply his trade in this league for years to come. 100%.
I would agree with you. I think the City game really showed that some of it's starting to click together. He's quite erratic. I think what we're all quite. And I was guilty of it as well. When you have a player who can hold the ball up as well as Solanke, losing that and then having someone who doesn't particularly have that in his locker so much at that time, is quite evident.
Yeah.
But what you begin to notice now, I don't know if you got a chance to see it, but the flick-ons that he latches onto, the way he can get his body in front of the defenders is crazy. The only thing I will say, and Evan Nilsson, if you're listening, stay on side, mate. It's not that hard. But I think Welbeck definitely deserves to be in there. So I think that completes our combined 11.
Can we quickly I'll just run through it again quick.
Yeah.
So for Bruggen, Kadioglu, Van Hecker, Senesi, Kirkes, Beleba, Cook, Semenyo, Pedro, Mitoma, Welbeck. That's a decent side, mate.
That is a good team. I think that team will win you the Premier League. And I think on that note, Joe, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure, mate. By the way, can I just I just want to, sorry, I kind of keep doing this, but for all the Daily Bournemouth listeners, and obviously for all the Daily Brighton listeners as well, this is actually Dom's first time hosting one of these podcasts. They've locked this man up, and his abilities have not been able to shine through. So shout out my man, Dom, my friend from school days.
Thank you.
Shout out my man.
I appreciate that. And you are the blueprint, sir. You are the archetype.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for everything you've done. So thank you for listening. We'll see you on the next podcast. And let's hope for... score prediction.
Oh, my days.
How could we forget? I'm going for a 3-2 Bournemouth win.
3-2 Brighton. I've predicted 3-2 on the last 4 crossover pods. So
and there you have it from the horse's mouth. Right, we'll see you soon. Take care. Have a lovely couple of days before the game. Au revoir.